Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're decoding the Eco-Pulse framework. Now, right off the bat, the sources make it clear this isn't just your run-of-the-mill sustainability tracker. It's actually a highly structured digital system explicitly designed to mitigate environmental collapse. We're going to break down exactly how it helps us optimize our impact using real-time core metrics. Let's get into it. We've got to start with this absolutely undeniable baseline reality from the source material. Mars doesn't have good espresso bars yet. Earth is our only baseline life support with coffee and Wi-Fi. It's a funny way to put it, for sure, but it hits the nail right on the head. It instantly establishes exactly why we need a survival strategy right now. Every single daily action we take is either actively protecting our atmospheric layers or degrading them. There is no backup planet with our favorite amenities, just waiting for us. So optimizing Earth, it's literally the only biological and digital ecosystem survival strategy that makes any sense. So here's our tactical briefing for today's explainer. We'll kick things off with the core action disconnect, then move into the digital antidote. After that, we'll break down some specific interception pathways, intercepting invisible carbon, reclaiming aquatic ecosystems, and mitigating toxic e-waste. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at how we tie it all together by gamifying planetary survival. All right, let's dive into part one, the core action disconnect. Take a look at this environmental threat matrix. It really maps out the sheer scale of the chaos we're dealing with. On one front, we've got thermal expansion, basically fossil fuels just cooking the atmosphere. Then down below, we have aquatic dead zones. These are areas where agricultural fertilizer runoff has literally choked out all the oxygen in the water. And finally, there's silicon fallout, which is all those discarded electronics leaking neurotoxic components straight into our water tables. It's a lot, right? So you might be wondering, why is all this happening despite our best intentions? Well, the sources trace it down to 4 core vulnerabilities rooted in what they call an action disconnect. First up, there's just a fundamental lack of awareness. We simply can't optimize what we don't track. Second, we're seeing high emissions largely driven by our daily convenience. Third is massive water wastage from domestic and industrial runoff. And fourth, improper e-waste disposal. Instead of being reclaimed, valuable lithium is just getting buried in the soil. Which brings us to part 2, the digital antidote. To counter these massive threats, the sources introduce the Eco-Pulse dashboard interface. This provides algorithmic accountability and transparent tracking. When you pair it with the Global Existential Impact Board, it basically acts as a strategic survival command center. It takes all those vague, invisible threats we just talked about and turns them into a live, visual heads-up display. You get real-time feedback on your environmental performance across carbon, water, and e-waste metrics. It's like a dashboard for the planet. Moving on to part 3, intercepting invisible carbon. Module 01 is the carbon evaluator, and this solves a huge problem, our inability to track invisible gas output. This tool computes your total daily carbon footprint based strictly on your transit and dietary choices. It evaluates the impact of standard things, like gas-powered cars or coal-reliant energy, and translates that massive global macro problem right down into your daily routine. And the metric of success here is immediate. Logging a sustainable transport action instantly injects 1.2 kilograms into your carbon deficit mitigation bank. Bam! Taking that action gives you a concrete, solid number. It proves that your specific daily habit is actively preventing atmospheric carbon from expanding. Okay, part 4. Reclaiming aquatic ecosystems. Module 02 is the hydrostation matrix. This interface actually simulates the massive amount of energy required to purify industrial chemical washouts before they ever hit our water grid. As we know, when chemical runoff leaks into aquatic reservoirs, it causes these devastating oxygen crashes that permanently destroy local reefs. So what this matrix does is visualize the sheer effort needed to reverse that kind of damage. The really crucial takeaway here is that every single responsible action you log processes exactly 0.3 liters of pure fluid back into deep system circulation. You are directly participating in aquatic reclamation. You aren't just saving some abstract concept of water. You are literally visualizing clean water re-entering the grid, step by step, action by action. Next up, part 5, mitigating toxic e-waste. Module 03 tackles that grim reality of silicon fallout we mentioned earlier. We're talking about crushed glass, releasing lead pools, and synthetic shells that won't biodegrade for centuries. It features a hardware duty cycle calculator. You just input your standard machine upgrading timeline, and the system calculates optimal upgrade paths. It's designed to actively combat planned obsolescence and prevent toxic soil leachate from getting into deep water tables. And this creates a very immediate, localized impact. By simply checking your recycling logs, you successfully block 50 grams of toxic lead and cadmium per device. Plus, every smartphone saved from a trash pile stops roughly 160 grams of lithium from dissolving into the water supply. It's an absolutely massive metric of success for protecting our biological ecosystems. Finally, Part 6, Gamifying Planetary Survival. To keep users consistently engaged in this survival protocol, the system uses a cybernetic reward engine. You can earn a 30-day survivor badge just for maintaining an initial baseline of ecosystem maintenance. Then, the quarterly guardian marks 3 full months of dedication. And the ultimate goal? The annual warrior badge, which requires 365 consecutive days of environmental tracking. It literally transforms these invisible, kind of thankless daily duties into highly visible cybernetic status symbols. So, bringing it all together, this protocol perfectly synthesizes our strategic alignment. It connects global threats directly to actionable, trackable metrics. Invisible carbon, targeted by the emission evaluator for 1.2 kilograms intercepted. Dead zones, met by the hydrostation for 0.3 liters processed. Toxic soil, handled by the hardware duty tool to block 50 grams of lead. And that overall action disconnect we started with? It's neutralized through gamification, driving an incredible 85% habit compliance. It basically takes the massive anxiety of global climate collapse and distills it into an operational, highly optimal data flow. Which really brings us to the core ethos of this entire framework. Small habits, big impact. Massive planetary survival just doesn't happen with one single magic bullet solution. It relies entirely on micro-level, daily optimization. Like we said, Earth is our baseline life support, and optimizing it for the future happens one transport log, one fluid reclamation, and one hardware duty cycle at a time. Before we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final mind-blowing decrypted laboratory fact straight from the source files. Did you know that loading standard, unoptimized, plain HTML text elements instead of heavy tracking frameworks actually reduces localized data center carbon costs by up to 80% per query? Think about that for a second. Plain, semantic HTML structure is literally the most sustainable way to code the internet. It really challenges us to rethink not just our physical footprints, but our entire digital footprint moving forward. Earth is the only baseline life support we have. Isn't it time we start tracking and optimizing everything?